My man, AJ.
How you doing?
Good, man.
Cool.
Glad you're here. Cheers, man. Cheers. I really, truly, man, appreciate each one of y'all for being here, for taking this journey with me. This is only the third one or something that we've done. I told y'all the hope and the aspiration out of this is that the people we bring into this room really inspire the next generation behind us. So cheers to making a difference, man. Cheers. So we'll go ahead and get into this first segment, which is dedicated to like practical, tactical. Like, what do you do? How do you do it? Why do you spend your time doing it? So Jay, we'll let you lead off, man. Like, you can break down a day, you can break down a week, you can break down an hour if that's how much you grind, man. But what is it that you spend your time doing?
I run a company that turns the volume up really, really loud on really good messages, and we start with video. That's what we do.
What does a qualities days execution look like for you? Because I think there's a lot of things that we spend time doing that we know are just valuable, but how do you know that you've executed in what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've like become more forgiving on myself lately. Jack and I were talking about this the other day. Like, we work 16 to 18-hour days every day.
It was 3 o'clock.
Right? Until 3. I mean, it's crazy.
Why are you still there?
I don't know. I don't know. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Like, we love it. It's like more than passion. It's almost like a responsibility, like a duty. And so that's why we put it in on Saturday and Sunday and all that stuff. But like, today was an ideal day. Like, my ideal day is when all my employees and all my founders have ideal days. And it just happened to be today.
Yeah.
Right? So like, Jack is most fulfilled when he's running around putting the camera on really cool things. Dan is most fulfilled when he gets to express his creative self, which is what he's been able to do. Jean is best when she's organizing and making sure that everything's in order, and she got to do that today. I'm best when I'm signing deals.
Yeah.
And we did that this morning.
Sweet.
And we started like a whole bunch of creative projects, like building out a chatbot with a team in Seattle, building out a website with somebody in Germany. Like, that's my ideal day. Betty is most fulfilled when she's editing, so is Rob. I mean, it was just one of those days. Yeah.
Man, what skill sets did you learn along the way that you maybe in the moment you didn't realize that you were learning them, but now when you look back, because that's a hell of a day, man. Just in one day that requires toughness. You know, like, what skill set along the way do you feel like you've been cultivating that now when you look back, like, yeah, this turns out to be pretty valuable?
Man, I was one of those kids that was kind of fucked by the system, you know? Yeah. Whereas, like, we're trying to be fit into a box, and we're trying to, like, you know, get the homework in on time, be judged by somebody else, like, all that sort of stuff. And if you follow the rules, then you make it. But I wasn't very good at that.
Right.
And so, like, I was a kid who would, like, get sent out into the hall for talking too much, or, like, trying to sell kids on too much. So I would take these kids erasers, you know, the pink and white erasers. I would take them from them. And then I had a pencil box, and I kid you not, I found that pencil box like a month ago. Yeah, with all my unsold merchandise. So I still got, I don't know how you like factor that into the accounting, because that was like in 2005. But I would take their stuff and I would bring tacks from my dad's office, and then I would like glue stuff to it and call it art, like Picasso. This is how Picasso got famous, right? He just like messed things up and it was like, that's art, that's art. And then I'd sell it back to the same person. Right, yeah. And then they would like kick me out of class. Yeah. And at the time, like when we didn't have much money, I had like these Payless or thrift store like all white shoes. You know what I mean? Like tennis shoes. And I had to get the wide sizes because my feet were, I don't know why my feet were big at that age. And then I'd go outside, but they wouldn't send me to the principal's office. I'd sit like this. And I got so bored, man. My friend Alex Lee, shout out. I don't know where you are. I think you went to the military.
Wherever you are, you're doing great things.
Yeah, wherever you are. He got real smart, and he bought a 24-pack of Sharpie markers, you know, like all the multiple colors. So whenever I was about to get in trouble, he'd start getting ready. And you know, like how drug deals go in the movies, where they're like this? Right. So he would do that with markers. And so I would say, so I'd sit out in the hall, and I'd color my shoes. And then I would try to sell my shoes.
Try to flip the shoes.
Yeah,
walk home barefoot.
But here's the thing, like that was a skill that I kind of suppressed because other people were suppressing it for me. So I didn't know that it
like
was
something's wrong about what you're doing.
I didn't even see it as a skill, right? Like I saw it as a character defect.
Was it
Problem.
intuitive, or was it something you feel like you saw someone else doing when you were growing up?
No, I never saw any of that, man. I never saw any of
You just
that.
had it in you, like, I just want to make some money?
Yeah. I mean, like, when you grow up in a poor neighborhood, one or two things happen. You become a piece of shit, or you become the shit.
Right.
And it's like all kind of based on the same skill set of resourcefulness or dependency. Like, it's one of those things. That's the difference. So, like, when you're really resourceful, you can start figuring it out. When you're dependent, there's no hope for you. So for whatever reason, I was resourceful in those moments. But I'm just thankful that, like, eventually we got out of that situation and my resourcefulness became a skill. And people were like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Right, the older you get, the more it's like when you're dependent upon something, it's almost looked down upon. When vice versa, if you're dependent upon a system when you're growing up, or depending upon the way of doing things, the normality, then you're more praised.
I mean, like, don't you think that in some of these neighborhoods that, like, I know you do a lot of work in, I do a lot of work in, like, neighborhoods that we all came from, like, there's this weird, like, lust for mediocrity. Like, people like
to be
average
comfortable?
people. People like average people. So, like, people will, like, get scared. If you're doing something that they're not familiar with, that's a little bit better than them, they'll kind of, like, put you down, unless it's basketball.
yeah. Unless you're gonna be like an all-star basketball player.
Yeah, but, like, it's like crabs in a barrel in a weird way, but they're just afraid of it. And so, like, that's one of the tough parts about the environment is like, people, if you do something a little bit different or a little bit better than them, they don't push you to go further. They're like, why are you getting good grades?
Why are you
doing
doing something different? Man, I'm curious, Abdul. I'm gonna throw this right to you, man, because I feel like you're one of them people, man, that I've realized and that I noticed, like, acknowledges your environment as a piece of, like, who you've become. Like, where I'm from, the things I've done, the environment I'm from, is a piece of why I've become who I am. Like, do you ever think about that contrast between, like, the community you're from and who you're trying to become today?
Yeah, that's real. I hate the statement I'm self-made.
Yeah.
Nothing that I've done or created in my life that I made by myself. If God didn't help me make it,
Right.
my family, my friends helped me make
So someone was in the mix,
Yeah.
right?
So I always make sure I give thanks to that. Like, you know what, thanks to everyone who supported me in this, or you know what, I don't know how I got here, so God did it.
Right. At the end of the day.
So yeah, I generally hate the statement like self-made. Use a tool or advice from somebody to get where you're going.
Yeah.
For what you have.
Well, let me ask you this way. What do you feel like, whether positive or negative from your environment, like, motivated you to push beyond just the content and context of your environment? Like, why do you try to become more than just your environment normally produces?
I think one thing that set me back a lot of years was I wasn't kick game early. In my the environment I came up out of South KC, out of Ruskin in 06, and I quickly got shipped out to K-State because I was getting in a ton of trouble. But I was out there blind. I barely knew how to survive out there.
Man.
I spent the first 2 years out there really just learning how to
stand on your own.
Exactly.
Yep.
So if somebody would have kicked me game way back then, I would be miles ahead of where I'm at now. So I do.
And this is the biggest thing I ask, and I mentioned this earlier, is because I try, like, I honestly feel like, and I tell my students, like, when I'm in front of them, like, I'm just telling y'all the facts. And that's almost like a line. I'd be like, man, I'm just telling y'all. And they'd be like, we know, Nick, the facts. And but I feel like at that age, like, do they have the capacity to really soak it in? You said, I wish someone would have told me, like, the old saying, if I knew then what I know now, right? Do you feel like you would have been able to soak that in? Like, if someone's telling you the knowledge you have now, at the age back then, 13, 14, 15, 16, do you feel like you really would have been able to soak that in?
Yeah, for sure. If someone would have told me that find what you're great at, make something great of it, I for sure could have done it. Being a second generation U.S. Nigerian kid, either you're a doctor or you're an engineer. That's it. That's the only way that you're perceived to be successful. And I didn't want to be a doctor or an engineer, so I really had to find my way. And I come from a long line of engineers. I had to find out my own way to success. But if somebody back then would have been like, "Hey, Tunde," that's what I learned about when I was a kid. Like, Tunde, if you're great at this, so be great at that. And we'll rear you and make you something. Man, you guys would be like, I don't know how that guy got there, or how I get there, because I just needed that.
So if you were to answer the question, like, what is it that you do, like, today, like, or maybe even project yourself a little bit 2, 3, 4 years into the future of what it is that you do, like, how would you answer that?
By day, I'm an IT professional. I provide solutions. If something that powers on doesn't power on, I can make it power on. And by night, I'm a gamer. So
Blow into it.
I'll blow into it.
You're gonna pass out all of a sudden. Delete my LinkedIn.
Yeah, and by night I'm a gamer. So I really just make my passion with what I'm great at and focus on interactive experiences.
Man, building a community, man, is so crucial. You know, none of us do it on our own, man. And I've witnessed, man, from the ground up, man, y'all two do that beautifully, man. Like y'all, the way y'all build a community, man, is I almost just love to just sit back and watch it. You know, part of me stays out of it because, well, for the extent that I'm in it. But when I'm sitting back, I just love to just watch, like, the way y'all build community, man, because very few people, I think at this point, starting from where y'all started from to today, like if you look at maybe any other organizations or companies that have started when y'all started, have not been able to build the type of community y'all have built. Man, like how do you feel like that you all have been able to execute so well on building community?
Man, that's a good question. Honestly, it's just been from support and, you know, keeping it as real as we can. I think back, from back in days when we were running around the neighborhood and everything like that, you know, we weren't doing anything but being ourselves. And when we were trying to build something, that was kind of a staple of kind of what we wanted to portray. Maybe you don't relate to clothing. Maybe you don't relate to hip hop or whatever the case may be. You relate to a family and a community. And that's something that is, very polarizing.
Yo, and one of the things that I like about like how like these two are building Local Legends Gaming is that y'all are hedging your bets, right? Like you're keeping the jobs right now, right? And then building community around a product that's going to pay off well into the future. And I think like when you actually look at the smartest entrepreneurs, we think that like they took humongous risks. And maybe they did, but they hedged that risk as much as they could. They inched into it. Yeah. Even though from the outside it looks like they didn't. But most of the biggest brands had people who had that as a side hustle. And then eventually their full-time became their side hustle. And something happened where they were hedging their bets until they decided to go all in. So like I appreciate that approach. That's really cool.
Yeah. Brilliant, man. And like no need to, it's like pure passion. From my perspective, forgive me if I'm wrong, but it's like you don't need to do that. You don't need any extra money, or you don't need to do something just to try to supplement. Like this is like purely like what you think is, one, where the world is going in terms of gaming, and two, like what you're extremely passionate about. I mean, you said you're one of 2 gaming trailers around Kansas City?
Yeah, one of 2. The other guy, I believe the other company went through new management or whatever, so I think they're really trying to rediscover how to operate in the city or whatnot. We haven't crossed paths yet, but I mean, same time, if we ever did, it'd be cool to work with them because we offer the exact same quality of product. And I don't mean like I mean the experience. Right. Because you think about gaming, we all love video games in a different capacity, but we all generally love playing games with people. I could pull out a Nintendo Switch and put Mario Kart on the table. We'd have the time of our lives because we all came up playing Mario Kart on N64, and the nostalgia would just take us all back. We could have all never met before, but that game would connect us. So it's that interactive experience is what I love about it, and how I could work with any other gaming company in the city, and it just be fun and games.
When you think about collaboration, like, are you all in, like, collaboration is the thing to do? Or are you, like, old school business, like, we'll connect and collab for how we can grow? Like, where do you fall in terms of, like, what you do, like, how you strategize connecting with people? Like, what does collaboration look like for you?
No, I'll be honest. I love to compete, and I love to scare the shit out of people. Yeah. Like personally, we're about to launch an initiative that's going to scare every photographer in Kansas City, and probably every videographer in Kansas City. And I can't wait to do it. Thanks, Pat Rob. Pat Rob's going to be a big part of that. But like, here's the thing too. When the time's right to collaborate, you collaborate.
Like you collaborate strategically, intentionally, not just like, hey, we do the same thing, let's get together.
Yeah. Like, I'm not in the business of driving good people out of business. If you're bad people, I'll drive you out of business. I don't feel bad about that at all, right? If you're not like serving the customer as well as you could, like if you're greedy, if you're doing that, to me, it's just kind of like cleaning the floor, right? But when you're good people and you're trying really hard, like I love collaborating with people, right? It's just better together, especially if you're good at it. You know what I mean? If you have some sort of process, if you have some sort of process and you go in, like honestly with an altruistic look at it, you know, like you're gonna get better, I'm gonna get better, let's work on this together. I think a key though is to give it a timeline, so you can check in and nobody feels handcuffed to it. Because I've done the opposite.
Like breaks where it's like, okay, we've been doing this together for 6 months. Do we like it? Or are we jamming?
Yeah, and at the very beginning, say, let's do this for a month, you know, and then check back in and just be honest with each other. But yeah, I mean, like if it makes the experience better overall for people, then we're gonna do it.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Lance, my brother, y'all be having some epic collabs. Shameless plug.
Wait a second.
On the epic collabs. On the epic collabs. Man, what's your feedback on that, man? Like collaboration, good, bad, indifferent. Like, how do you feel it out?
Yeah, collabs are great, especially in the realm that we're in, because it can shed light for either party in whatever capacity that is. But with that being said, kind of like what you were speaking on, not everything makes sense for everybody.
Do you collab with people in the fashion space, in a different space?
See, that's the tough part, is because a lot of people aren't on the same wavelength when it comes to that. And that makes it difficult because, you know, when you're collaborating, you don't want to give more than you're getting. It should be it should be a balance there, right? And, you know, sometimes people are out there just to get what you have and to find the gains. So a lot of times we find it better to collab with people that aren't necessarily within our realm. And I think that makes it that much more powerful, like you were.
Do you use particular metrics, like when you sit down, like first time, or do you just vibe and say, hey, I think we'll do good together. Let's see where this goes.
A lot of what we do, even when it comes to just like large decisions, it goes off of guts. Like how does it feel? Like what is that? What's the perception from us? With us, we have a big group of people, about 10 or 12 of us right now. So
that you would define like inside your organization.
Yeah, within our organization. So it makes it easy for us because we have such a wide spectrum of people. You know what I mean? From backgrounds or, you know, personalities or preferences, whatever that may be. So we get a really good test market of kind of what makes sense with that. But yeah, I would definitely say a lot of times it just comes off of gut feelings. Like, you know, how does this feel? Does it feel right? Does it not? How is this going to be perceived?
Man, let's transition. Why do you do it? You know, I think there's a question I've been trying to ask myself lately, intentionally, daily, which is when I wake up, be like, why are you getting up today? You know, like I think so often we take for granted the fact that that we just have the pure ability to, right? Like God gave us this crazy ability to move and to be in motion and to think. But two is like, it's a choice. Like you may think like, okay, I have a job that I have to follow through on, or I told these people I made these commitments, but at the end of the day, it's a choice. And I'm trying to like ask myself more often, like, why are you about to get up today? Because I'm realizing like loading myself with that empathy and gratitude like pushes me out the door rather than I just slug out the door. So like, why? You know, like the big why, like what is it? Why is it that you choose to get up and go after it?
Man, could you imagine like you're dead and gone, right? And your great-grandchild opens a book or a photo album or whatever they're using that day, AR, whatever it is, and they say, that was my great-granddaddy, right? Like, that would be cool. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like as simple as that. Yeah, for sure. And I come from a weird space where, like, my family's
like legacy,
right? And so, like, dad or grandpa? Mom. Yeah, so, like, mom and all my cousins.
How much, like, dad or like grandpa?
And so I've got this, like, strange responsibility to try and get them up and get them out. That doesn't hit me every day, maybe once a month. But other than that, it's just like, it's not like I feel like I have to do this work as much as I'm just excited to do it.
Could you see yourself doing anything other than what you're doing right now?
Oh yeah.
What would it be?
Man, anything.
Like you could get into it.
I don't know what it is.
It's the nature of the beast.
No, I mean, this is cool. My favorite part about what we're doing now is that I get to be around cool people literally every day. Yeah. Literally every day. I talked with one person in the last probably month that I didn't like.
You're like, I don't want to be here.
And I think Jack knows who I'm talking about. And that was it. One person, because we get to like just cut it off as founders. You know, we can like literally say, I'm not fucking with you today.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that today.
Yeah.
Until they're an investor, and then you're screwed.
Man.
Yeah.
So they put a check on the table. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, but what about you? I mean, do you guys feel the same way? Like, do you guys only interact with people who you like, or do you feel like you have to eat it? Like, what do you think?
No, definitely not. 3 hours after we announced that we were a business, a thing, I had someone in my inbox. My first negative business interaction.
The first interaction, the
3
first inquiry
hours.
was negative.
Yeah. Man,
What the hell are you doing?
because I don't care enough for them, I would have been dignified the conversation with them. It was just silly. We sat back and laughed at it. Double back with some of my attorney friends as well to make sure we were still cool. But even them were like, man,
I've CC'd my attorney. What were you saying?
yeah, for sure though. But I was just like, hey, I don't even have time for this. He was like, you should have told him to just F off. I was like, it's not worth it. New business, we're really trying to set the tone of our level of customer service, stuff like that. I don't even want to let there to be a record out there that we had a negative interaction with somebody. So we just moved past. And the nice thing about it, gaming is better together. And if it's not, end game, and then we can go play with somebody else. So yeah, we definitely work with who we have positive vibes with, and we have done some amazing events on the spur of the moment. When we did the event with Made, we decided on that like 7 days before we had the event, and it was huge.
Boom. Next thing you know, block party.
Yeah. And we had so much fun that we kicked another event like 2 weeks later. And stuff like that. And anytime they hit us up like, hey, you want to do the event? We're like, we're there. Like, let me know what time to pull up, and we'll be there.
Is there a way that you can sharpen your intuition? Like, sharpen the vibe? Like, our generation uses it a lot, like vibes, trust the vibe. But, like, is there a way that you can, like, learn to lean on that more, like, as truth rather than just, like, a cool addition to have?
Dude, I got to learn from you all, because my intuition, it does not kick in until like the 3rd, 4th, or 5th meeting. Like, I just don't get it. I've been wrong 99% of the time on first impressions. Yeah, it sucks. Do you got, like, are you good at it? Are you?
Look, my mother is never wrong. I've learned to trust her.
I feel like I can kind of like pick up on people maybe like first go around. If like it's something I would want to do or work with, or I don't know, the whole woman intuition thing. But yeah, I feel like I can kind of pick up on a vibe on if I feel like this would be a good person to work with, or
is it
or
more like you
not.
sit back and listen, or you ask questions like, like 3, 4 questions in, you're gonna know what's going on?
Sometimes it could be like digging in deeper with questions, and sometimes it can just be their personality,
Pure, like, interaction.
or just genuinely what they're giving off. And you're like, I don't think this gonna work, because you have to know yourself too. And so like if like I'm a very positive person, this person, every question I give is negative, we're not gonna work.
I'm the same thing, like going into it, like when you feel it, like acting on it, and then they say like it gets stronger each time that you do it. And then you learn like to just push things that you don't want away. Like, no, I'm not doing it. We're cultured like you have to take on random bullshit that you don't want to be a part of. I was at a restaurant with a friend the other day, and neither one of us had been there. We just picked some random place, like, let's go sit down and have lunch. And I got there, she got there a little ahead of me. She ordered some coffee. I got some coffee too. We're looking at the menu and we're like, like, what the hell is on here? It was like, I couldn't even explain all the stuff on there, just the most random things.
It was all in French.
I'm like, and I could tell she's like, she was just gonna pick something just because she wanted to pick something. i.e., I'll hang out with this person just because it's the only person I can hang out with. I'll do business with this person because the opportunity to do business. Whatever the case, we're looking at this menu, and she's like, I guess I'll order something. I'm like, you really don't want to eat here, do you? And she was like, not really. And I said, let's just leave. Like, why don't we just get up and leave? Like, because we're invested already because we bought some coffees. Like, I put $5 down, and we got up and we left. And I think, like, that's because I've learned to, like, lean on my intuition, and, like, it's grown in proportion each time. Like, if you don't want to do something, if you don't want to be around something, if you don't want to be involved in something, like, leave. Like, I think we're taught so often, like, you have to, it's like part of it, like, you have to be involved in some shit you don't want to really be involved in because, I don't know, you get the steady paycheck at every 2 weeks. Like, I don't know, like, what the trade-off is. for like giving your time, but knowing like the clock is ticking, like that's been the biggest thing for me. Like, have any of you like lost someone like really, really close to you? Pat, you lost like I know, but we've talked a lot about it. I feel like it's been multiple people though, right? Yeah. You're like, do you feel like that's had an impact on you? Because that's really where I was going, is like losing someone super close to me is what's had an impact on me.
Man, yes, I believe it has a huge impact. Like one of my biggest inspirations was my Uncle Frank. I got him tattooed. It was my first tattoo ever, you know. But yeah, it's like just growing up with him, man. It led a huge impact on me, man. Just simply because it's like everything I do, I keep him in mind. Right. And everything I do is like I know he's watching. Like if he's watching, you know. But it's just the fact that, man, yeah, like those people that you lose, man, they ultimately, bro, I think that they're ultimate motivation for whatever your vision or whatever your aspirations are in life, you know? Yeah, and I use them to fuel my motivation, you know? I use them to fuel it, you know, because some people look at it as a negative connotation, but it's like I look at it as a positive reinforcement, you know? So.
Man, it's that realization to me. So I lost my father when I was 10. And it was like the realization of death. Like, okay, you know, death is real. Like, I could be gone any minute. And some days that shit is like, I start panicking because I realize it. You know, like, I could die at it. I could walk out of here and get hit by a car. That, you know, it's like, it gets intense. But it's the realization. Like, I actually have a speech I give that starts with, one day you are going to die. That means from this point moving forward, your time is limited. What are you going to do with it? See, some people live their lives with this idea that if they live it safe enough, they can make it out alive. I'm wise enough now to know that either way, you're not making it out alive. Like, whether, I think consciously or not, like we live life like, oh, I'll have tomorrow. I can try again tomorrow. I'll give another shot at it. And whether it's death, which is like the extreme, or whether it's just like you have a deadline or something you need to do in a short amount of time, like my why is like knowing that like the clock is ticking. And like I feel that internally every day. Like, shit, I just lost another day, another 24 hours, another 8 hours, another 7 hours. And trying to get my students to understand that, because we'll be in class and we'll have like 15 minutes left and they'll like just, you know, they're losing their minds because they're like, we're almost out of here. I'm like, you know what we can do in 15 minutes? And they're like, I'm like, we can do so much in 15 minutes if we just focus. Yeah. Because that 15 minutes every day is like 2 hours that we're, and if you add those 2 hours and then they're like, okay, this is where you're getting crazy. But it's like that realization, man, it's like my why, that's so big for me is like, I feel it, man. Like one day I'm gonna die. And like, I want like legacy, right? Like I think I look at it more in terms like for myself, like I was gifted, like living, they say something about like living beyond your parents. Like whenever your parents died, if you live beyond your parents, it's like, okay, your parents' life was shorter than your life is now. And that's a weird feeling, like, whoa, they lived less life than I'm living right now. And it's like this realization, like I that must mean that whether it's your like a parent or a close friend or uncle, it's like God took them before they took me. Like that must mean I have something I'm supposed to be doing. And I think that that's really what fuels me, man, and like why I'm all in on trying to change these kids' lives, because it almost feels like a debt, like a responsibility, you know. So
yeah, but like here's the thing about legacy is like I think a lot of legacy is really greedy. It's like I want to be remembered, but why do you need to be remembered? Like is that really important, or is it like should it be, you know, people should feel my effect. They should have felt my dent on this earth rather than being remembered. Like, could you imagine, like, so for every Steve Jobs, right? Like, we're all affected by Steve Jobs, right? Like, we got this stuff, and he's remembered. For every Steve Jobs, there are 100 non-Steve Jobs that had a humongous impact, but we don't know their name. We don't know anything about them.
Well, what
so
do
they fail?
How would you define like humongous? Like their neighborhood was like their entire neighborhood was all about them, or just as many people knew them, but publicly it's not as like what's a humongous impact?
Man, I don't know. Like who invented that camera?
Good question. Right.
You know what I mean?
So
like,
the effect of what they've done has had a huge impact.
Yeah, I think that it would be a huge burden off of our shoulders if we stopped trying to be somebody as well known as Steve Jobs. Or Bill Gates, or Jack Ma, or, you know, you name them. You know what I mean? But if instead we just said, like, will my impact resonate throughout the centuries? Like, if that's our goal of legacy, then that should be it.
And then, well, yeah, it's like I agree with what you said, man. But at the same time, I believe that legacy is more about what do you leave behind. You know, like I believe it's more of a selfless act. You know, like because it's like you're putting your life out at risk to basically sacrifice for those who are coming after, you know? Right. And I believe that that's where the legacy is really, like, you know, held. Like, what are you leaving behind for generations to come after you?
Like
you know,
tangible,
like,
intangible? Like, what do you mean?
Tangible, intangible. I say tangible as far as assets. Like, how can these people like that are coming after you be able to live? You know, because wealth it's not calculated based on how rich you are. It's calculated about how, when you retire, whatnot, how long can you last after that point of retirement?
When you're no longer generating.
Exactly. You know, so it's like, how can? I mean, it just goes back to the point that you established at first, man. Like, what is the legacy you're trying to leave behind? I believe that that's the ultimate question. What are you trying to leave behind? Because once you figure that out, you know, I believe that that's where you'll start to just integrate your message, and you start to basically put that more into everything you're involved in, you know, basically after you figure out what it is that you are trying to leave behind.
Is that asking too much out of people? Like, that's one thing I ask myself a lot. Like, should every person be on like this quest of like self-understanding and fulfillment and like legacy, or like some people just meant to live and breathe and die? Like,
I think your life structure is what really sets that up. If you take me back 3.5 years ago, before I had kids, I lived so foolishly and so so wild. But everything changed. My son changed the entire game for me. And it now puts me in a place where I don't fear death personally. I fear death for the people who are living. Because when I die, it's not going to affect me. I'm going to be dead.
Yo, and that's something hard for us to empathize with. We don't get kids.
Yeah, like when I die, it's not going to affect me. I'm dead, but it's going to affect my family. So I look at it that I have the entire world in my hand. And it's my job as a father and a husband to build the most plush foundation so that when I'm removed from holding this world, it lands on something really comfortable.
Right.
Because the things like my business, money, and all that stuff, none of that will matter to my family. It'll be the memories is what they actually like hold on to. Think about it. That's why we hold on to photos. Right. That's why we're recording all this. We could have just talked and kicked back, but we want to look back at this moment and relive the conversations and what we took from this. Like I have personal interactions with each and every one of you guys that resonate inside me. Like the first time when we met at Thalmaeus, you know, I really grabbed the gem people give me. Even if we never worked together in business, there was a moment where we sat down and he kicked game to me about content, about how people think that when you take a video, all you have is a video. But you have 1,000 clips. You have you have the vocal from it where you can turn into a podcast. You know, I'm not into media, but I'm into technology, and I would have never known that if I didn't actually take the time to sit down with this guy and he didn't kick that game to me. It's those kind of billion-dollar conversations that resonate for me.
I charge by the hour, by the way, so. No, that's cool. That means a lot, man. That means a lot. I didn't know if we had made a dent on you or not because, like, we met at the Urban Plug. Remember that? And I was walking around with Naomi, the little one, and she was interviewing people, and Jack was vlogging her. You know what I mean? And so, but we met. But that's cool. It's cool to see. That's what I'm talking about right there. It's like because you make that impact on people too. So do you. 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 Right? And like actually going all the way back to the beginning of your conversation where you were talking about like impacting these kids and like whether or not as a young kid you can
you grasp it? Like,
grasp it? It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Like you should do it anyways, right? Because they might remember it 10 years from then, 10 days from then, 10 minutes from then. It just doesn't matter. And then even if they never grasp it, if they fucking old balls and die, maybe somebody in that circle or somebody around.
Maybe they kicked off something that.
Right? Yeah.
And I know it resonates with them because when I look back at my life, when I was 17 years old, I was getting in tons of trouble. And I ended up in a courtroom, and the judge, because I had been accepted to college, that's what they let me off for.
They say he got some potential.
They were like, I'm not going to ruin your life, so I'm going to let you go. But what she did was she took this piece of paper out, and she wrote on there, the evils that we cause in the world does not affect us, but it lives within our bones. And it just always stuck in my head with the idea that it's the bad things that I do in my life don't hurt me, but it's going to live within me, and it's always going to be with me. So I should always think about the negative things that I do. You know, the times you use people, the times you take things from people, the times you curse people out, you hurt people. It's always going to live within you, and you're going to take that along with you. And that moment, I was 17 years old, and it just always taught me the lesson that I need to make sure that I'm affecting people positively, so I don't have all that bad carrying along with me. I'm a 17-year-old knucklehead, you know. Right. I didn't know anything at the moment, but I'm 29 years old now, and that statement still, I have no clue what that judge is or what's going on here, but that statement stuck in my little ignorant 17-year-old brain at the time.
And you know, like most of the things that we remember are things that the people who said them forgot.
Right. Like, I said that one time.
You ever think about that?
Man, yeah.
So crazy.
It was just something they randomly said one time.
Yeah,
but it stuck with you.
like that's why you might as well say it.
Yeah, man, and I'm at that point, like the same reason why I got up is I'm at the point where I'm done doing things I don't want to do. I'm done holding back, like this is a dope ass moment, y'all. I don't even know what we're doing right now. Like I met Jay, he's like, do we need to do a freaking podcast and a video? You're trying to change lives. We're building education, entrepreneurship programs. And here we are sitting down, you know, like, I'm not going to downplay the moment. Like, this is dope because the goal I set for myself was like, I'm going to build 10 entrepreneurship programs. And out of those entrepreneurship programs, we're going to make a ton of money. Because I want these kids to see like, oh, fuck, like I can go out and I can actually build a business at 16 and make some money out of it. And now next thing I know, we're sitting down here and like we're actually talking about it. Like Lance, I forget who I was talking to, man. But you came up in conversation the other day. I wish I could remember, man. It's probably one of my kids because they asked me a million questions. But I was like, man, Lance is like the longest standing friend I have. You know, like I had friends when I was younger, but when like the longest standing friend, like you're the person I know that I've known the longest in my life that I still now know. I don't know, it's been what, like 15 years almost maybe? I don't know. Something long, you know, like like I thank God that he allowed us to be together in this moment, you know, like Pat Rob knows I've had the aspiration to like do a show. I didn't know how I was going to do it. Honestly, I was nervous to do it because I'm like, man, first of all, why would anyone sit down and listen to what I got to say? 2, what the hell am I going to say? 3, like, how would the space actually come together? And we were literally like drawn up like on just papers, like where chairs would go and just, I don't know where the scrap paper ended up to actually be in this moment. To have like you standing here, you know, sitting here, like one of my longest standing friends, like memories of like you driving up, like, come on, bro. I'm gonna put that out there. Swear, you know, but like to know. About cars. Look, I have the worst car story of all time. Trust me. But to know like God has held us and kept us and nurtured us, and we're in our right minds and our right bodies, and we're actually doing things we're passionate about and that we care about. Like, I'm not going to downplay the moment of that, you know what I mean? So, like, honestly, bro, I appreciate you being here, bro.
And that, you know, that's reciprocated right back because kind of like what you're saying, man, I completely agree with what you're saying. Not to disrespect you or anything like that or your thoughts, but I definitely think it's more about, you know, less of the hand, but the fingerprint itself, the fingerprint that you're leaving. You know what I mean? That's something that wakes me up every day. You know what I mean? Gets me out of bed. Is that like, how can I really set something in this world that I can leave behind and know that it's gonna still be there and continue to inspire and touch other people. And that's really what gets me out of bed. And you know, whether that is with my business or that's with my personal interests or whatever that may be.
What's the deal with you?
Talk to me, man.
So, we got some really thinly cut steaks. I quickly seared them since they're really thin. Got the heat real high, just to press it real fast. With just a little smoked tomato au jus just to go on top of the steak. Just a little sample plate. Some roasted asparagus, nicely thinly cut steak, quickly seared. Nice little medium rare inside with a smoked tomato au jus. What am I grateful about? I would have to say my chef abilities, actually. I know that's kind of funny, but actually it would be my chef abilities. It's taken me super far in life. I just started this about 3 years ago at 18. I'm 21 now, I'll be 22 later this month, and I worked with plenty of celebrities, athletes, local clientele. I speak to a lot of boys here in Kansas City, high schools, elementary schools. So I just pretty much fell in love with the craft, fell in love with being able to do this, and girls like it, so.
Hey, that's facts.
It's always a plus. It's always a plus.
What you trying to do in the schools, Jay? You said you getting involved with the schools?
Yes, I actually am. So I go school to school, speaking with young men, just trying to encourage them. Also, I speak to a lot of people who deal with suicidal thoughts or, don't have their father in their life. And I really relate to that because I grew up without my father.
Where are you from?
I'm from Kansas City. Born and raised from Kansas City, Missouri, the best city in the country, almost. It's snowing right now, so it's like, blah. I'm not really feeling it right now, but
Finessing that
I
salt.
love it.
Yeah, Salt Bay.
Hold on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
Boom.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Oh, elbow.
Oh.
Yeah, I love it here. I'm not gonna lie. This is where I started a lot of things, so can't leave where your fan base is, where you're building that. So I'm grateful to be here. You can find me on Instagram at Chef Jayon, Jayaun. That's the only social media platform that I'm on right now. I kind of ran away from Facebook when all the old heads took over.
Had to get out of this.
So I just stick to that as of right now. But pretty soon I'm gonna make a like page just to be able to communicate with people, get out in my city more, and then take over that generation that I missed actually. So.
Finessing.
See how you do it. I'm taking notes just so you know.
That's good.
I cut you short, man. My fault. You trying to get into some schools, and what would you love to do, man? Like, what's a perfect day in the school like?
A perfect day in the school, honestly, with me, is after I leave. The actual amount of boys that reach out to me. The first time I did this, when I went out to a school, it surprised me because everybody in the classroom texted me right afterwards, and they were really interested in who I was and what I was about. And since I was so young, I related, right to them. So for my story to be able to touch a lot of young men, it means a lot to me. So, and it's hard to get, young people to listen. So
What part of your story do you feel like they resonate with?
Probably, growing up without a father and, like realistically, truly, a lot of men I feel like don't really like to admit it, but insecurities, I'm a short guy. I couldn't play a lot of sports, you know what I'm saying? So growing up, it's like, dang, I always had to compete with the taller person, but it don't really affect me too much now. Yeah, definitely.
Man, like, what do you feel like allows you to be vulnerable? Like, 'cause I think that's something especially there's a lot of black men in the room, like that's something that we fight, like the necessity of vulnerability versus the importance of it. Like what allows you to be vulnerable and open up?
Because I feel like, well, me personally, I was blessed with a mentor who kind of found me at like 8 years old because I could have patched into my head, and he was a barber. So him, being honest with me about his life from the good to the bad to everything, I just feel like it helped me out a lot to who I am today, and it kept me pushing. So why not take the next young man, even somebody who older than me, pass them that same information, because a lot of people's older than me, I inspired them as well too, and a lot of people still haven't dealt with their, internal problems. So I don't know, it's just something about being open. And then I'm a Pisces, so that love stuff, man.
Part of it, man. All right, man. So this last segment, which I'll prime you, although we might be going, is just like, if you could leave one piece of advice that you can think about it a couple of ways. Like, what do you wish someone would have told you when you were in high school, or what's one thing that like anyone who's trying to impact high school, impact youth, build youth entrepreneurship programs, what's one thing that they should make sure that they focus on? It could be like very tactical, tangible, like document everything, record everything, take notes, focus on finances. I lost all my money when I was 28. Or it could be like really cheesy, and like if the cheesy's the truest thing, like be cheesy, like never like lessen your dreams, like believe in what you're doing, like whatever it is. You know what I mean? So I'll give you a minute to like think about that. No, I'll write it down. He said, "Good." As you think, I'll read an inspirational quote from a book I marked. This is The Accidental Creative. It's a guy who runs a creative shop. I forget his name, Todd Henry. He said, "They recognize that more ideas will always come. Ideas are endless, but investing in relationships and maintaining an ethic of generosity yields returns we can't yet understand. When we can't gain, that's why I said I'm not a reader. We can't yet understand generosity yields results we can't gain when we hold tightly and selfishly to what we think we deserve. These people are meaning makers. You all are meaning makers. And in my experience, we eventually come out on top because everyone wants to work with and for people who experience meaning in their lives." All right, Jay. And after that, you got something, man?
Yes, I do. One thing that I would love to leave to the youth and anybody watching or listening would be to know yourself, to learn yourself, to study yourself, and to master yourself. And that's when you can feel the true glow.
All right, Lance.
Man, I don't know how you can follow that up, but I'm just going to try to keep it simple here. Basically, my advice to the youth or anybody working with the youth, or let's just generalize it for working with anybody, is don't be afraid that you can't affect everybody. You're not going to get to everybody. Just worry about speaking the truth and how you truly see the things. Give the experiences that you've gained yourself and pass those on. It's going to touch somebody somewhere, somehow, kind of like what we were talking about earlier. So don't be afraid to fail. Don't listen to the negativity because it's negative to somebody, but it's positive for somebody else. So
Speak the truth, man. Yeah, dude. They went like super inspirational, man. Don't be afraid to be like, look, do your taxes. Because I tell these kids every day, like, do your freaking taxes. Do your taxes. They don't teach you how to do your taxes in school. It's the craziest thing. They don't want you to know how to do your taxes.
They want you to know liberty.
Right.
Don't give the world what you think is cool. Give the world what you love, and the world will find it to be cool. That Cardi B flow.
So I would say, like, working in higher education, what I see is that a lot of young people, mostly young people of color, don't know what it takes to actually get into school without being in debt. So I would say, like, to really look up scholarships. You don't have to be the smartest person to get a scholarship. You could be left-handed and get a scholarship. And so I would say, like, really looking into what that looks like financially. And I know it's because you don't have the support system to tell you that it's out there, but it's out there to get the free money. It's out there to get the grants. It's out there for you to get, and not to just get Pell Grant, because we know some of us is on Pell Grant, to just spend it on stuff that doesn't matter. It's to really, if you have too much, put it in a savings account. And so, like, I feel like a lot of times it's the financial piece that we miss, and that's how we get student loans, and we can't get out of debt, and we don't know how to make it. We don't know how to be the entrepreneur because we have to pay those student loans back. And so putting that aside and going to school for free, where you can get the education that you need, you can get what you need to make it in life, is really important. So I really will push that financial piece. Like, my kids gonna hate me,
But they
about to be filling out all these scholarships.
Right, they gonna know how to get some free money.
Whether we can pay for it or not.
Right. Free money.
I would just say establish a vision. You know, that's your silhouette of your future. And break it down into steps and make it happen.
Be afraid to get started. Getting started is the hardest part. You take the first step, there's momentum.
Okay, so this is a message to the kids getting in trouble in school. If you're getting in trouble, it's not because you're bad, it's because you're bored. So figure out where to put that energy, and you're going to find something successful.
Get a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k when you're 18.
Surround yourself with people that inspire you. Because the people around us, man, I didn't realize how much people can feed you until I was around people that could feed you. You know what I mean? Like, I thought that was just like what you got out of people, like that it was like the mediocre 50-50, good seeing you, talk some shit, hang out next time. I didn't realize like people can really feed you as much as they have the potential to feed you if you spend time with the right people. That's a wrap.
Just the beginning, though.
Bring it in, bring it in.
Suspenseful poems, suspenders in every word, wearing overalls, overdosing, trained as a locomotive, conductor of commotion, controlling the road we on. I know we are. I remember being so high, I didn't know that the load could unfold, sleeping with